YouTube, it's William. Waiting on some knife blades to cool from tempering, and also waiting for some sheaths to dry so I can do something else. And I want to take a moment to talk about choosing a knife edge profile, in my opinion. Okay, you basically have 4 grinds, if you will. A Scandi or a V grind. You have a Saber grind. You have a full flat grind, and you have a hollow ground. Okay, those are the basic 4. You also have some hybrid grinds like Convex. You have chisel grinds, and you can just go on for different variations from there. But those are the basic designs I want to talk about because those are the most common. Hollow grind, I don't have any. Well, I do. I have an old buck knife that I never use anymore, but it has a hollow grind. And they're great for what they were designed for, as I've said in other videos. They were designed to process meat, basically skinned bucks, squirrels, rabbits, and they excel at that. But if you want a woods knife, or what I would call a woods runner knife, it is not designed for heavy use in the woods. When I say heavy use, I mean whittling and things like that, feather sticks, and because the blade is really thin right above the edge. So and they have been known to break fairly regularly. So if you have one and you use it, you like it, that's great, that's wonderful. So don't send me a nasty memo that says I'm wrong, because this is my opinion. Alright, so basically let's talk about the Convex. Now this is my prepper that I came out with about a year ago, and it has a Convex, and if you'll see the blade on it, it's like an axe. And that Convex is more for heavy chopping or heavy abuse, as far if you want a knife that's going to chop and you want to process wood with it, then that is the profile that you need to consider. Okay, so if you're ordering a knife, check and see if it's a Convex. If it's a Convex, then more than likely that is for heavy use. Alright, going through bone, through heavy dense material. Okay, and that is just a basic synopsis of my opinion. Alright, now here is a Scandi or a V grind, and these knives were made popular from Scandinavia, and they're more considered a bushcraft knife, which you can get all kinds of arguments of whether bushcraft, woodcraft, all this other stuff. But basically it is just a point, a fine point. And this edge is very thin, very thin. If you're going to carve softwoods, do fine feather sticks in softwoods, this is a fantastic grind. The problem is, and you can watch my other videos, getting past this apex. If you're cutting something, I found this stick, new stick. If you're cutting something, then you're going to hang up at that apex right there. It pinches the blade. Okay, right there, it pinches the blade once it gets to that apex. Blade has a lot of strength because it has a lot of metal. Okay, so if you're going to baton with it and things like that, then you wanted the strength, then this may be a grind for you. But be aware, if you use this knife in dense woods, that 90% of the time the blade edge will roll or chip. Okay, now if you use this in softwoods, just doing feather sticks or doing fine carving, then the blade excels. If you want to skin deer with it or do field dressing with this knife, it will do it. But be aware that that blade, if you hit bone with it, then the edge 90% of the time or 95% of the time it is going to roll or chip, okay? Because it is so thin, fine a metal here, and I don't care what kind of steel it is. That's the reason a lot of knife makers go to the A2 and all the crucible steels, S30V and all this other stuff, trying to get this edge to hold up. And it doesn't matter what they do. If you get one that's hard, it's going to chip. If it's 60 or in that range, it's going to chip. If it's less than that, then it's going to roll. The edge is going to roll and you have a fine wire edge on it. Okay? So, be aware of that when you're ordering a knife. Okay, now I have two here that are different thicknesses. That is a Saber Grind, which is basically a V grind with a secondary bevel on it. And for a strength and durability knife, you still have the strength of the steel, and you have, as far as the majority of the steel there for batoning and things like that, but you also have less of a apex, if you will, to get past when you're carving or whittling or doing whatever you're doing. This is probably one of my favorite grinds for a heavy-duty workhorse of a knife, and this is what I have on my Johnny Rancher. Okay, it is a Saber Grind, and I don't know if you can see that on the camera or not, but basically it's a grind that comes up part of the way of the blade. You can probably see it better on this on my butcher knife here. See, this is a Saber Grind. Okay, you can see where the polished edge is. That is the grind on it. And this is a great edge as far as strength, durability, and it also cuts, and in my opinion it cuts as well or better than a Scandi as far as feather sticks and whatever you want to do with it. It is a better cutter than a Scandi. Okay, and it holds up better. It's easier to sharpen, in my opinion. Now some would disagree with that. They say that a Scandi is easier to sharpen, but I don't think so, because you have to have special stones, you have to have water stones. If you use diamond stones, you can do that with Scandis, but you got to watch the profile or you'll end up with a Scandi Vex in a heartbeat. So it won't be a true Scandi after that. But sharpening another knife, and it's very simple, and I'm just going to give you a basic idea of how to sharpen a knife. Pretend that this is a stone, a bench stone. You lay the knife on the bench stone, okay, like this. This is 90 degrees. Half of that is 45, then half it again is 22.5. That's about the proper angle. And you just hold that, and you strike toward the stone just as if you're shaving off the top part of the stone. Now if that is difficult for you to do, to hold that, then what you could do is tape some pennies or 2 quarters to the back of the knife, and it'll hold it up to the right angle. Okay, and do that. But once your muscles memorize that angle, then it's just a piece of cake. It's all becomes natural to you, and it's easier to maintain in the field. You don't need to have specialty stones like with a Scandi. You can sharpen it on a rock. Okay, same thing with a full flat, and I'll show you a full flat here in a moment. But for durability and all around cutting of meat, game, camp knives, processing wood, a Saber Grind is probably, in my opinion, the best grind that you can get for that multi-purpose, all-purpose, general-purpose knife. Okay? Now, while I have this knife, I want to talk about something else right here. Now, you see these two knives. The other thing you have to consider is, see how flat this is? And see how curved this is? A curved edge cuts better. It slices better. And the reason for that is because it leads the curved part of the edge into whatever you're cutting. That's the reason I love kukris, is because it has so much curves to it, so many curves to it. A curved edge cuts better. So a straight edge cuts okay. It does what it's supposed to do. But if you want to slice meat, if you want to slice things like tomatoes and kitchen stuff on a butcher knife, most of them have a curved edge. When I mean a curved edge, I don't want to do this because it's like a razor, but see, it has a kind of a belly to it. So if you're going to use it for hunting, look for that. If you want to use it for general purpose of chopping and camp chores and things like that, then a straight edge will do you fine. Okay? Just a little tidbit there. Alright, and I don't want to make this too long of a deal, but this is a full flat. And it is a very thin knife. I use this knife daily, every day. I use it on everything. Now, the reason I made this knife so thin is a thin edge has less drag, and it will cut better than any knife profile out there. It's because it has no drag. I mean, you can just slice right through that with little effort at all. It's not as robust as the other grinds. I would not baton this knife. I have an axe for that, or I have a heavy duty knife for that. I would not baton any flat grind knife, full flat. I don't care how thick it is. I would not baton it at all, because the metal is very thin, and eventually it will break. Things break. Okay? I don't care what kind of steel it is. I don't care who made it. It will break, and 9 times out of 10 it breaks when you need it the most. Okay? So if you want to baton with it, get you a 3/16 inch knife with a Saber Grind and have at it. But if you try to baton a 6-inch log with this, or chop through a 6-inch log with this, and you're not careful with it and misuse this and hit it at an angle, the blade will break. Okay? That's why you have axes. Alright, in an emergency situation, you can do fine stuff with this, little small kindling and things like that. A 4-inch log is fine, as long as it's not red oak with 20 billion knots in it, and you're trying to power drive through the knots, and if you hit it at an angle, could break. Could it break very easily. Okay? Just be aware of that. And just because a knife breaks don't mean it's a bad knife. It means it was used improperly. Okay? A knife is to cut. It's not to chop with. Alright, back to the flat grind. Like I say, it is a fantastic cutter. There is no apex on the grind to try to get through. It just cuts smooth. As far as kitchen knives, that's the reason a lot of them are flat grinds, full flats. And I use this one, like I said, every day. And I mostly cut leather with it, 9-ounce leather, and it just goes through it like butter. And it's because it's such a thin blade. Now, if you want something just a pure cutter, then that's what you need to consider, is a full flat grind knife. And in my experience, the more experience you have using a knife, this is the profile you lean toward the most. Okay? So that is my 2 cents. I hope I don't have to give any change back. But this is my experience from using a knife 40 years or so. And that is my opinion today. Now, it may change and it may evolve over time, but that is my opinion today. So when you're choosing a knife, you not only look at the blade profile, you got to look at the edge profile as well. And choose wisely. There is a lot of good cheap knives out there, but there's also a lot of bad cheap knives. So just Be aware of what you're getting. Ask questions. Get on forums. Ask people if they used them, what they think about them. Because choosing a knife is choosing something that may save your life, depending on what situation you're in. So choose wisely. Well, that's all I have to say. I think I've said enough. You guys get out in the woods. Go whittle on a stick. If you do, take plenty of band-aids and more than one knife. There's no such thing as a one-tool option, folks. No such critter. If you get one too big to do everything you want to do, it will not do the small task very well. So take more than one knife. Be prepared. We'll catch you on the next one. And y'all take care.